Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is Matt Vierkant, former platoon mate of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. It's great to have you back, Matt, and great to see you on Skype.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so, your take now, Bergdahl has an attorney, and also we've heard from the Pentagon saying that Bergdahl has the rights of every other active duty military member while the investigation continues. What's your take?
Well, I agree with that, but at the same time, I don't think he's being treated right now like any other person that's being investigated, especially for a serious charge of desertion. From what I hear from people down in that area, that he's, walking around freely. He has an entourage around him, living in different barracks, and almost being treated like a hero instead of being treated like he's actually under investigation.
But certainly there at Fort Sam Houston, I know there are soldiers assigned to him to be with him at all times, but he's got to also be receiving some strange looks and maybe some comments from other soldiers. Do you think that's taking place as well?
I don't know about the comments or anything. I'm sure that all the soldiers down there are acting professionally, and I could definitely see where he would have somebody escorting him around, guards or whatever. But at the same time, I think that he should be more locked down, and I don't think it's being taken as seriously as it should be.
And that's certainly your assessment is important there. And I don't mean to say that soldiers are not professional, because I should mention that Army soldiers are some of the most professional people I've ever met in real life. And I would not discount their ability to keep their mouths shut, even though their personal feelings might be something different. Let's focus back on Bergdahl's attorney a little bit more. He's been pretty outspoken about his commitment to representing Bergdahl here. And this is a statement coming from Fidel here. Quote, "I think there are people that have been using Sergeant Bergdahl for target practice in the media. I think that's extremely unfortunate. People should resist the temptation to try this case in the media. Just hold the phone." Now, that's certainly a common sense assessment, something you'd expect from a defense attorney, but do you agree with Fidel?
No, I don't agree. And maybe if he was there in Afghanistan at the time when Bergdahl walked off and deserted, he'd be saying something different as to what his, brothers in arms are saying, the people in his platoon are saying now. He walked off and he left us. That's something that's unforgivable. And, to try to say that he's a scapegoat for something else, or, that we shouldn't blame him, I mean, it's almost ridiculous. I understand that he went through 5 years of captivity, but that wasn't my fault. That was his own fault. He put himself in that position.
And he's saying, Bergdahl's saying that he believes the president saved his life here. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, to some accounts, I agree. But on the other hand, I don't know, why he wasn't, I don't understand why they're trying to behead so many other Americans and prisoners, but he was held captive for 5 years. So in the end, yeah, I agree that he saved his life, but at the same time, he shouldn't have had to save his life, because he should have never been in that position to begin with, because he put himself in that position.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. You mentioned the fact of the Taliban and their propensity for beheading captives that they had taken. And Bo Bergdahl was not beheaded. I'm sure what he went through in that 5 years was somewhat difficult. Of course, we don't know whether or not he put himself in that position. I actually had a conversation with Alan West about that very issue months before Bergdahl's negotiated release here, saying that if Bergdahl had actually been captive, he would not have survived up until this point. What were you told about the dangers of going outside of the wire and being held captive by the Taliban, and what could happen to you if you did fall into Taliban hands?
Well, in my own opinion, and I know many other veterans share the same views, but especially where we were at in Afghanistan, we were in the middle of nowhere. If you would have went off by yourself, or even, if we would have got ambushed and, taken prisoner after fighting, we pretty much knew, or, it was guaranteed that you would be, killed, especially to walk off like he did and be captured. I wouldn't think anybody would do that. And if if myself were to get captured, I would definitely think that I would be killed.
And that's a story that we've heard far too many times, unfortunately. And again, as we look back at some of the comments that have come out already from Bergdahl's attorney, I do want to go back to something that he said yesterday on CNN, and we were discussing this earlier with our producers. The word flip it kind of came to mind. Let's play that clip real quick from CNN yesterday.
I'm not going to get into that, and again, I apologize. I don't want to, insinuate my own views or impressions. Those are also privileged, and I know that's frustrating.
Why did you retain an attorney?
Kate, can I say, let's give our viewers a little more credit. I mean, seriously.
There's been a lot of question of how much he's been exposed to the media attention to his case. Since you are the only person who can speak for him at this point, what does Bo Bergdahl want the country to know?
I think that I've got to put you off on that. I apologize.
And there you have Eugene Fidel, obviously a very serious situation, especially for guys like you, Matt. And he's laughing about this on the air. Do you think he really has a gauge on how deeply affected guys like you are, your other platoon mates, your other military members, by what's played out with Bo Bergdahl?
You know, I would sincerely hope that he does. Desertion is a very, very serious charge, and myself and everyone I was with take it very serious and very personally too. And at the same time, if I was in Bergdahl's position and somebody was accusing me, or allegations of desertion, everything else were coming up against me, I'd be the first one to speak up and defend myself. And they won't even talk about his mindset or his health, or even let him speak a word. It's they all tiptoe around it, and I just find it really interesting.
And in our last conversation, there was something interesting that you talked about that I want to bring back up, and that's the fact that Bergdahl talked a lot about his interest in the military and doing a good job among you and your platoon mates. Meantime, he was writing letters home to his parents saying that he was embarrassed to be an American, which would suggest perhaps a diversion in his mind. Of course, we are not psychologists or psychiatrists. We can't diagnose his mental condition. But was there anything that you saw from Bergdahl that made you think, in hindsight perhaps now, that, maybe I should bring this to the attention of a lieutenant or a platoon commander, because I don't think Bo's quite right in the head?
Nothing of that aspect, really. Nothing, serious. Everybody's got their quirks or, weird things that differ from person to person, but nothing so alarming where, I thought, or anyone else thought, that we should, notify leadership of it. And, his letters and emails home, talking badly about the military in America, contradicts what he was telling us while we were in Afghanistan. He wanted to do, more missions to find the Taliban, to seek them out, and, to essentially kill them, and do an infantry job, what we came there to do. But at the same time, then he's talking disrespectfully about the military and America back to his parents, and then telling lies to whoever about running over children or whatever. So there's so many aspects of this story, there's so many holes, there's so many contradictions, it doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and that's why a lot of Americans, and especially folks like you who served with Bo Bergdahl, who have a more intimate understanding of the story, are looking to this military trial, or the potential of a court-martial here, to get those facts out there. And I guess the resolution that we're all hoping for is that it's done in a transparent way, that whatever the outcome of the trial is, that everybody feels like it was done in a fair manner, right?
Oh, definitely. He definitely deserves a fair trial, deserves his day in court. And, we'll see what happens. Well,
that's what you guys fight so hard for over there in places like Afghanistan, to make sure our rights as Americans stay what they are here today. And as we talk about the withdrawal from America, we heard the president yesterday commenting and basically patting John Kerry on the back for his work recently in Afghanistan, but still violence continues there. As the U.S. begins its final drawdown this year in Afghanistan, what are your hopes for that country in the future, considering you saw some of your platoon mates die on the battlefield?
Well, what I really hope for Afghanistan is that it doesn't turn into the situation that we have in Iraq right now.
There you go. Can't say it any clearer than that from a guy who served on the battlefield in Afghanistan. Matt, as always, it's great to talk to you, coming to us via Skype from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And as the Bergdahl case continues to develop, we hope to get more insight from you in the near future.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, there you have Matt Vierkant, who served with Bo Bergdahl in Afghanistan, saying that, yes, of course, like all of us, he hopes Bergdahl gets a fair trial, but at the same time, he hopes justice is served. Big issue here, and of course we expect to learn more about the Bergdahl case as Bergdahl announces that he has hired a lawyer yesterday, and that lawyer continues to address the media laughing sometimes. More ahead here on America's Forum. Miranda Kahn's back with more news right after this commercial break.